Hello and welcome. You watching News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. Let's bring you all the top stories that we're tracking at this hour. Delhi's air quality continues to choke the national capital. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal held a high-level meeting to discuss measures to control the pollution levels in Delhi. Post the meeting, several new measures have been announced to curb the pollution levels in the capital. The Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai announced that the odd-even scheme will be implemented in Delhi from the 13th to the 20th of November. Schools for all classes except classes 10 and 12 will be shut till the 10th of this month as the air quality in the city continues to remain in the severe category. The 24-hour average air quality index or AQI worsened from 454 on Sunday to 471 on Monday.
दिल्ली के अंदर 5वीं क्लास तक के स्कूल 10 तारीख तक बंद किए गए थे। आज बैठक में निर्णय लिया गया है कि 10 तारीख तक अब 6वीं, 7वीं, 8वीं, 9वीं और 11वीं की कक्षाएं भी जो है वो अब बंद रहेंगी 10 तारीख तक के लिए। 10वीं और 12वीं की जिनके बोर्ड एग्जाम्स हैं उनकी कक्षाएं जो हैं उनको अलाउ किया गया है। दिल्ली के अंदर दिवाली के अगले दिन 13 नवंबर से 20 नवंबर तक एक हफ्ते का जो है वो ऑड इवन फार्मूला जो है वो दिल्ली में जो है लागू किया जाएगा।
Well, the 24-hour average air quality index or AQI worsened significantly over the weekend. From 454 on Sunday, it's actually at 471 on Monday. The escalation prompted immediate activation of all emergency measures prescribed under the final stage 4 of the graded response action plan for air pollution control. To combat the worsening conditions, stringent restrictions have been put in place, including a ban on entry of polluting trucks and other pivotal measures. Unfavorable wind conditions and a substantial increase in farm fires across northern India have been cited as contributing factors to this very concerning air quality situation. The Commission for Air Quality Management has taken swift action, directing Delhi and NCR states to enforce various measures such as halting construction work for linear public projects and permitting 50% of government and private office staff to work from home. According to doctors and medical experts, it's not the respiratory system that is at risk from the poor air quality. Severe air quality, of course, as we know, continues to persist in the Delhi NCR region. Experts say that air pollution has a harmful impact on the human body at multiple levels. Poor AQI can induce anxiety in people of all age groups. They say bad AQI is also linked to cancer. Poor air quality has a correlation with heart and brain diseases as well. The recommended AQI for a healthy person is below 50, and as we said, in Delhi it's almost at 500 currently. This exceeds the danger mark by a huge margin. Particularly risky for lung-related diseases, and the most vulnerable are those with breathing problems such as asthma. Let's now give you an account of the most polluted cities across the world. Apart from Kathmandu, Dhaka, Tashkent and Detroit, many Indian cities feature on this list. Delhi fares quite badly with an overall average of over 300 on the AQI meter. Following Delhi, the other Indian cities that are on this list include Mumbai, Kolkata and Faridabad in Haryana. Also, Karachi in Pakistan is at 193. Those are pretty abysmal levels as well. Kolkata at 171. Again, well above the danger mark. Mumbai at 160. Smog proving to be very, very dangerous for people across major cities in the world. Dhaka The Bangladesh capital also in the danger zone, as is the Nepal capital of Kathmandu at 134. Tashkent in Uzbekistan is at 133, again on the list of one of the most polluted cities right now in the United States. Detroit at 120 on the AQI index is one of the most polluted as well. Then there is Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan at 114 on the AQI meter. Let's now get you a complete lowdown on the Israel-Hamas war. It's day 31 of the Israel-Hamas war, and there appears to be no end to the fighting inside. Let's bring you up to speed on all the major developments on day 31 of the war. The Israel army claims to have cut the Gaza Strip into two. Communications in Gaza have been cut for the third time. The Pentagon says it has deployed its Ohio-class submarine in West Asia. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Turkish capital of Ankara as he continues to hold meetings with West Asian leaders. U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Chief William Burns is currently in Israel. Israeli airstrikes have hit 2 refugee camps in Gaza, and now, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 9,770 Palestinians have been killed so far in the Israel-Hamas war. 31 IDF soldiers have been killed so far in the Gaza ground offensive. According to the World Food Programme, just 5 days of food is left in Gaza, as the humanitarian aid continues to be a mere trickle. Israel has said that in the combined activities of its ground, air and naval forces in the Gaza Strip, over 2,500 terror targets have been struck so far. In an update posted on its Telegram channel, the Israeli military has said the IDF troops are continuing to eliminate terrorists in close quarter combat and direct their aircraft to strike Hamas terrorist infrastructure, weapons depots, observation posts and command and control centers in the Strip. Overnight, the Israeli Defense Forces directed their aircraft to strike a Hamas military compound containing command and control centers, observation posts and additional terror infrastructure.
Today marks 30 days of holding of a 9-month-old baby hostage. Kfir Bivas, my young boy, just turned a year a couple of days ago. We're gonna defeat Hamas. We're gonna free our hostages, 240. Some of them are from all over around the world. We're gonna free our hostages. It's a top priority. And we are dealing with a murderous organization that did a massacre on the 7th of October. We will not forget the massacre. I hope the world will not forget the massacre of the 7th of October. We came up in the morning, waking up, and babies were killed in their beds. And young women were burnt alive in a music festival. We will not let the world forget that. And we will not let the world forget Kfir Bivas, a baby after 30 days being held in Gaza. It's unimaginable. It's a crime against humanity. It's a war we did not start and did not seek. And now we're fighting. We're fighting to defeat Hamas, to free our hostages, and to free Gaza from Hamas.
Explosions and flares continue in Gaza as Israeli forces press ahead with their assault. Footage taken from southern Israel on Sunday showed explosions lighting up the night sky over the Israel-Gaza border. On Sunday, Israel, in fact, once again rejected growing calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, with military specialists saying forces are set to intensify their operations against the Palestinian Islamist group Hamas, with no time frame set for their activities. Israel's military has used a combination of ground troops together with air and naval power to pound the Gaza Strip and deepen their incursions into this narrow coastal strip, aiming to destroy Hamas infrastructure and kill its commanders and neutralize its command and control systems. Meanwhile, several rockets were also seen flying over Tel Aviv on Sunday night as rocket raid sirens sounded across the Israeli city of 4.5 million residents. A Reuters witness heard explosions, possibly interceptions by Israel's Iron Dome system just after the rockets appeared. The rocket attack warnings were issued for several cities and districts in central Israel, such as Jaffna, according to an official government alert system. The Israeli Defense Forces have reportedly arrested Ahed Tamimi, the Palestinian activist who made global headlines as a teenager in 2018 when she was arrested and later jailed for slapping and kicking IDF soldiers. Tamimi was arrested in the village of Nabi Salih near the West Bank city of Ramallah, according to Haaretz newspaper. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir praised her arrest in a post on Twitter, calling her a terrorist. According to Israel, Ahed Tamimi was arrested on suspicion of inciting violence and terrorist activities in the town of Nabi Salih. The Israeli army has released videos that it says show the opening of a humanitarian corridor to allow civilians in northern Gaza to evacuate to the south. The videos were accompanied by a video message delivered in Arabic from an Israeli army colonel asking Gazan residents to leave the northern part of the Palestinian enclave, which he described as a war zone.
حي الزيتون. احنا اليوم فتحنا شارع صلاح الدين كممر انساني لمواطنين شمال القطاع. انا بطلب كمان مرة لكل مواطنين شمال القطاع ومدينة غزة، انزلوا جنوب وادي غزة. شمال القطاع ومدينة غزة هي منطقة حرب، منطقة خطيرة جدا. حماس المجرم الارهابي بيستغلكم كدروب بشرية. انزلوا جنوب قطاع، انزلوا جنوب وادي غزة. احنا بنعطي السماح لإدخال المساعدات الإنسانية لجنوب وادي غزة.
Health officials in Hamas-controlled Gaza have said that more than 9,770 Palestinians have been killed in the war so far, which began when Hamas launched a surprise attack on southern Israel on the 7th of October, killing 1,400 people and taking more than 240 hostage. In a rare joint statement, leaders of the United Nations major humanitarian agencies have called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The signatories include the heads of OCHA, UNICEF, the World Food Programme, the WHO, Save the Children and Care International. This joint statement described the situation in Gaza as horrific and unacceptable. It's called for an increase in the supply of relief material being sent into Gaza as more than 2.2 million Gazans suffer from a shortage of food, water, medicine, electricity and fuel. On the other side, the statement also took note of the death toll in Israel and of the Israeli hostages being held by Hamas. The statement says scores of aid workers have been killed over the past month, including 88 of those who belonged to UNRWA. That's the highest number of UN fatalities ever recorded in a single conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected all calls for a ceasefire in Gaza until all the hostages captured by Hamas during its 7 October attacks are safely returned. Netanyahu made his stance clear during a speech at the Ramon Air Force base in southern Israel, emphasizing that there will be no ceasefire without the hostages' return. The United Nations World Food Programme Executive Director Cindy McCain has issued an urgent plea from the Rafah border crossing for safe and expanded humanitarian access to Gaza as needs skyrocket and critical food supplies reach dangerously low levels. For the past few weeks, entry points of Gaza have been sealed except through the Rafah border crossing point. While there has been a steady increase in aid entering Gaza, it is nowhere near enough to meet the exponentially growing needs. McCain concluded a two-day visit to Egypt, during which he met with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, senior government officials, and also visited the Egyptian Red Crescent's humanitarian staging hub in Al Arish. She inspected the rapid expansion of logistical operations and monitoring systems at the Rafah border crossing, which are crucial for providing vital assistance to people in Gaza.
People are living in a horrific nightmare. Food and water are running out. A steady flow of aid is needed to meet the desperate needs now. Humanitarians must be able to deliver it safely, and civilians must be able to reach it safely. Without this, lives will be lost and conflict will spread.
The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Ankara, the Turkish capital, where he is holding talks about the situation in Gaza with his Turkish counterpart, Hakan Fidan. Just before Blinken arrived, things were pretty intense in southern Turkey. The police had to use tear gas and water cannons as hundreds of people at a pro-Palestinian rally tried to storm an airbase where U.S. troops are stationed. Washington wants to prevent a wider regional conflict and has stepped up diplomacy with regional countries whose populations have been angered by Israel's assault on Gaza. Like we mentioned before, Turkish police had to fire tear gas to disperse a pro-Palestinian rally staged outside a military base housing U.S. forces just hours before the arrival of America's top diplomat, Antony Blinken, in Ankara. The protest outside an airbase in southeastern Turkey was organized by the IHH Humanitarian Relief Fund, which in 2010 led a flotilla to Gaza that ended in a deadly clash with the Israeli Defense Forces. The IHH protest was timed to coincide with Antony Blinken's visit to Ankara, where, as we said, he has met with his Turkish counterpart. Nearly 1,000 people also rallied on Sunday outside the U.S. Embassy in the Turkish capital. Iraqis took to the streets in Baghdad on Sunday to protest the visit of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to their country. Blinken made an unannounced stop in Baghdad, where he met with Iraqi leaders and toured the region amid spiraling tensions over Israel's war with Hamas. Blinken said U.S. officials were working to secure a humanitarian pause in Gaza that would advance several priorities, including getting more aid in and also getting hostages out. But even as Arab leaders publicly pressed the U.S. Secretary of State to secure an immediate ceasefire in Gaza in a rare open display of disagreement, Antony Blinken pushed back as he stood next to his Jordanian and Egyptian counterparts during a press conference. Take a look at this report.
We need to focus now on stopping this war.
Arab leaders publicly pressed U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Saturday to secure an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. But in a rare open display of disagreement, the top U.S. diplomat pushed back.
It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th.
Blinken met the Saudi, Qatari, Emirati, Egyptian, and Jordanian foreign ministers in Amman. He said all were agreed on the need for peace and that the current status quo in Gaza could not hold. Blinken, who met with Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu a day earlier, said Israel, quote, must take every possible measure to prevent civilian casualties.
Protecting civilians will help prevent Hamas from further exploiting the situation. But most important, it's simply the right and moral thing to do.
Earlier on Saturday, Palestinian witnesses said Israel hit a UN-run school in Jabalia, Gaza, which was serving as a shelter. The Israeli military said that according to a preliminary inquiry, it had not targeted the location, but that the strike may have been the result of fire aimed at another target. Reuters footage of the aftermath showed broken furniture, patches of blood on the ground, and people crying. One Gazan boy said he had carried dead bodies.
I carried a body and another decapitated body with my own hands.
Israel's defense minister said its forces had destroyed communication hubs, bunkers, and tunnel networks over the past 2 days, and that 12 Hamas commanders had been killed since the start of the war. World and regional powers have failed to reach any consensus on how to deal with the escalating conflict in the 4 weeks since fighters from Hamas, which runs the Gaza Strip, burst over the border, killing 1,400 people and taking more than 240 others hostage. Israel has since struck Gaza from the air, imposed a siege, and launched a ground assault, stirring global alarm at humanitarian conditions in the enclave, Gaza health officials said on Saturday, killing more than 9,488 Palestinians.
The U.S. has issued an unusual announcement that an Ohio-type nuclear submarine has arrived in the operational area of the U.S. Central Command. The specific identity of the submarine has not yet been disclosed. It's not clear yet whether it's one of the submarines equipped with Tomahawk cruise missiles or Trident II ballistic missiles. Nevertheless, its presence strengthens American deterrence capabilities in the region and its ability to respond if necessary. The Ohio-class submarines are known for their stealth capabilities, enabling them to operate covertly beneath the ocean's surface. These submarines are armed with up to 24 Trident II D5 nuclear missiles, granting them exceptional flexibility for more frequent and shorter notice deployments. They carry a substantial arsenal of 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, each equipped with a potent 1,000-pound high-explosive warhead. These Ohio-class submarines join other key assets in the U.S. Navy's West Asia presence, including 2 carrier strike groups. Additionally, the head of the CIA, William Burns, has reportedly arrived in Israel to discuss ongoing efforts against Hamas and the issue of the release of the hostages. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison visited Kibbutz Kfar Aza, which suffered significant damage from attacks by Hamas terrorists on the 7th of October. They were accompanied by Israeli soldiers and officials and toured some of the homes that were burned during the attacks. Johnson expressed concern over the attacks that claimed the lives of over 1,400 Israelis and said that it might indicate a fading memory of the Holocaust. He emphasized that anti-Semitism cannot be tolerated. And in other news, in the United States, a fight broke out between the Sikh Sangat and Khalistani goons during the Yuba City Nagar Kirtan in California. The Yuba City Nagar Kirtan is the second biggest Sikh event in North America. As per reports, the fight broke out after the Khalistani goons tried to forcefully paste posters of a referendum 2020 on a private property. The youth present at the Sikh Sangat opposed these Khalistanis, who in turn attacked the peaceful Sangat with spears, swords and chairs. All right, in other news from the United States, two recent polls show that Joe Biden is trailing behind Donald Trump in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election. These polls indicate concerns about the economy and divisions in the Democratic Party regarding the Israel-Hamas conflict, and that these factors are negatively impacting Biden's chances in 2024. Trump is ahead of President Biden in 5 out of 6 swing states. Economic concerns play a pivotal role in Biden's low polling numbers. Voters appear to trust Trump more on economic issues. A split within the Democratic Party over Gaza, over the Hamas war, could in fact harm Biden. Younger voters and people of color differ from Biden's stance on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Dissatisfaction with Biden's views on national security is another contributing factor. Groups that backed Biden in 2020 now seem to be evenly split.
New U.S. presidential election polls out on Sunday showed Joe Biden trailing his predecessor, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump, in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states 12 months ahead of Election Day. The polls were conducted by the New York Times and Siena College. They showed Trump with the lead in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, while Biden is ahead in Wisconsin. Presidential elections are often determined by the outcomes in a handful of so-called swing states, which could swing and be won by either major party, and which become targets of both of their campaigns. Trump bagged all 6 of the swing states in play this year when he won the presidency in 2016. Biden was able to flip 5 of those states in 2020, which sealed his victory then. He will need to do that again to win re-election. Responding to the polls, the Biden campaign said, quote, "Predictions more than a year out tend to look a little different a year later." They added, "We'll win in 2024 by putting our heads down and doing the work, not by fretting about a poll." Biden's multiracial and multi-generational coalition appears to be fraying, though, according to the polls. Young voters under 30 favor Biden, who is 80, by only a single percentage point. The Democrats' lead among Hispanic voters is down to single digits, while black voters, a core Biden demographic, now registered 22% support in the swing states for Trump. The New York Times says that's a level unseen for a Republican candidate in modern times.
Five people, including 2 children, were killed and several others injured at a popular tourist town in rural Australia after a car crashed into a crowd of patrons on the front lawn of a pub. 4 died at the scene of the accident on Sunday evening in Daylesford, about 110 kilometers northwest of Melbourne. A girl who was airlifted to a hospital died of her injuries later. The SUV mounted a curb and then drove across a grassed area outside the Royal Daylesford Hotel. The police haven't specified if the victims were related and whether speed was a factor at this stage, but said those killed were not local residents. All the victims are yet to be formally identified. The exact circumstances of the accident are yet to be determined. The driver, a 66-year-old man, was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The driver was breath tested and no alcohol was found in the system.
It was the car going up, smoke going everywhere, and then all those colours flicking, and I only realised an hour and a half later they were bodies. They were bodies that I was watching. So, yeah, it was just horrible, horrible.
There were a large number of people there at that time, at tables, enjoying themselves, enjoying what is essentially a long weekend. The vehicle collided with those tables and those people, and unfortunately 4 people were killed at the scene. 1 person later died in hospital.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has expressed optimism about his upcoming meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. This visit marks the first by an Australian leader in 7 years, signifying efforts to mend ties strained by disputes over issues like Huawei, espionage and COVID-19.
I think it's in issues like Bali already restarting. But the engagement that I've had with China, with President Xi, have been positive. They have been constructive. He has never said anything to me that has not been done. And that's a positive way that you have to start off dealing with people. But we recognise as well that we come with different political systems, very different values. Well, we're committed to AUKUS and we're busy implementing it. And that's what I mean by dealing with people honestly, up front. We've been up front about our engagement. We think that AUKUS is in Australia's national interest. We also think that AUKUS is a vehicle to promote security, peace and stability in the region.
Fissures have developed in the People's Liberation Army. High-profile commanders and the Defence Minister have been removed due to corruption allegations. There's also been speculation about a submarine loss to add to China's woes. However, this hasn't deterred China's aggression in the South China Sea and its violent designs on Taiwan. China might not be looking at an out-and-out invasion of Taiwan just yet after seeing the condition of Russia in Ukraine, though. China is trying to, however, wage a psychological war against Taiwan by stepping up its intimidation tactics. Russia's defense ministry on Sunday announced their new nuclear-powered submarine. Imperator Alexander III carried out a successful launch of the Bulava ballistic missile designed to carry nuclear warheads. The Defense Ministry also shared in a statement that firing a ballistic missile is the final element of state tests, after which a decision will be made to accept the cruiser into the Navy. President Vladimir Putin has been pushing for Russia to maintain its nuclear deterrence to counter what he calls growing security threats, as ties between Moscow and the West have hit new lows over Russia's war in Ukraine. According to the UN, opium production and supply in Afghanistan has declined by 95% in 2023. The UN has said that near total contraction of opiate economy can have far-reaching consequences for Afghanistan. An immediate redressal is needed for the farmers whose main income was from opium cultivation and to provide them with alternative means of income. The United Nations also said treatment centers are needed to address high opiate usage in the country. The UN has further added in its report that less opium production will lead to less heroin supply in the world and may reduce drug trafficking globally. However, the UN has warned that this could also spur the emergence of harmful alternatives such as fentanyl and other synthetic opioids. Germany's Hamburg airport was able to reopen and resume services on Sunday, hours after a hostage standoff involving a child was over. The police arrested a 35-year-old man and rescued a 4-year-old girl who's the daughter of the suspect and was thought to be involved in a custody dispute. The police said a man who was suspected of carrying a gun and possibly explosives drove a vehicle through the gates of the airport on Saturday night. The incident shut down one of Germany's busiest aviation hubs. The suspect eventually got out of his car with his daughter, according to the police, and was arrested without resistance. The girl appeared to be unharmed. The episode has raised serious concerns over airport security here. Less than 4 months ago, climate activists had been able to breach barriers and get onto a runway, blocking planes from takeoff.
Germany's Hamburg airport was able to reopen and restart service on Sunday, hours after a hostage standoff involving a child was over. Police arrested a 35-year-old man and rescued a 4-year-old girl, who is the daughter of the suspect and was thought to be involved in a custody dispute. Police said a man who was suspected of carrying a gun and possibly explosives drove a vehicle through the gates of the airport on Saturday night. The incident shut down one of Germany's busiest aviation hubs. The suspect eventually got out of his car with his daughter, police said, and was arrested without resistance. The girl appeared to be unharmed. The episode raised concerns over security at the airport. Less than 4 months ago, climate activists had been able to breach barriers and get onto a runway, blocking planes from takeoff.
Britain's Prince William has embarked on a 4-day visit to Singapore, commencing a tour of the jewel Changi Airport Mall, including the impressive rain vortex indoor waterfall, and this included interactions with locals. He will also join a dragon boating event on the Kalang River, rowing with local residents, British expats and Commonwealth representatives. Elon Musk's social media platform X is officially entering the generative AI race, with X's first AI chatbot named Grok now in limited testing with a view to a wider launch in the near future.
Elon Musk is just back from an AI summit in the UK. There he talked to British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak about the dangers posed by the tech.
I'm saying this is something we should be quite concerned about, because if the robot can follow you anywhere, then, you know, what if they just one day get a software update and they're not so friendly anymore? Then we've got a James Cameron movie on our hands.
Worries about Terminators aren't stopping him pressing ahead with his own AI plans, however. On Sunday, the billionaire said he would integrate his XAI startup into X, the social network formerly known as Twitter, which he bought last year. Musk launched XAI in July as a rival to Google's Bard and Microsoft's Bing AI. He says it is a maximum truth-seeking model, which will try to understand the nature of the universe. Musk says XAI has also launched its first bot, dubbed Grok. It's been available to all Premium Plus subscribers on X since Friday, and is meant to answer queries with a little wit. Musk says Grok has real-time access to information via the X platform, giving it a big advantage over rivals. X remains separate from XAI, but the two work closely together.
African trade ministers and US officials are meeting in Johannesburg, where there are calls for a duty-free trade deal to be extended by 10 years to reassure businesses and investors. Can a US-Africa trade renewal be quickly sewn up? Here's a report on that.
At a garment factory in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, the future of a US-Africa trade deal is on Nora Nasimiyu's mind. She's worked here stitching Levi's jeans, largely for US customers, for 13 years. It's how she's put 6 children through school and university. But she fears an uncertain future if the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, is not renewed.
So we are praying that they extend. If they extend, it is going to be a very big advantage to us, Kenyans at large.
AGOA provides qualifying African countries with duty-free access to the world's biggest consumer market. Nasimiyu's employer, Pankaj Bedi, chairman of United Aryan EPZ, said 99% of their garments go to the US.
Once AGOA is gone, all the buyers are gone, all the productions are gone. So similarly, if AGOA is not there, it would be not sustainable for us to survive here. So AGOA is supreme. So all 4 pillars of the business are based on AGOA only.
The program is due to expire in September 2025. But concern over its future is why African countries have been pushing for an early 10-year extension without changes. That's needed, they say, to reassure businesses and investors. Here's South African President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking at the summit on Friday.
United States and us, we are here for the long haul. So let us make AGOA a long haul opportunity for all of us.
AGOA, which saw over $10 billion of African exports enter the US markets duty-free last year, does enjoy long-standing bipartisan support from US lawmakers. They see it as critical in countering Chinese influence on the continent. However, there are divisions over the need for updates. A recent push in the Senate is aiming to pass a quick renewal deal. President Joe Biden has said he fully supports reauthorization. But his Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Friday that Biden also wants to make it even better. African governments and US industry associations, however, worry that attempts to radically alter AGOA risk bogging it down in a Congress that is already struggling to pass even the most critical legislation.
Shipping and logistics giant Maersk is planning to cut 10,000 jobs as shipping demand faces a dip all across the globe. Here's a detailed report on that.
Maersk announced on Friday it would cut at least 10,000 jobs due to overcapacity, rising costs and weaker prices. It comes as the Danish shipping group reported a steep drop in third-quarter profit and revenue. Maersk, which controls about 1/6 of the global container trade, flagged a steeper downturn in demand than expected and said it was in the process of cutting its workforce from 110,000 to below 100,000. Which will save the company $600 million next year. Shares in the group, whose raft of clients include major companies like Nike and Walmart, slid over 11% Friday morning to their lowest level in 3 years. Analysts said this was mainly because Maersk said it would reconsider whether to continue its share buyback program into 2024. The firm said it expects global container volumes in its ocean business, its largest, to fall by up to 2% this year. That's primarily as a result of weak consumer demand and also destocking by firms following an initial scramble for goods in the aftermath of the global health crisis. The company kept its full-year guidance for revenue and operating profit, but now expects both to land at the lower end of the range.
The Russia-Ukraine war is having far-reaching impact on the Russian economy. Diamond traders in Belgium have been asked to boycott gems that have been brought from Russia. Here's a report.
Antwerp, Belgium, one of the largest diamond trading hubs in the world, has a Russia problem. It was only a few weeks after Russian troops invaded Ukraine last year when diamond firms in Antwerp started getting phone calls from international clients asking them to avoid using stones from Russia. That was no easy feat for diamond dealer Thierry Tugendhoff, who said about half of his rough diamonds used to come from Russia due to their high quality. But his company, T Diamonds, was forced to pivot and get its diamonds from somewhere else. Now, Western powers want to make the boycott official, with a formal ban on Russian stones. But Tugendhoff says the ban will only go so far.
China, which is a major consumer of diamonds, have absolutely no interest in that ban. India, which is also a major consumer of diamonds, they have no interest in that ban. I mean, they don't have no interest to know from where the stones are. It's never been the case. And most of Asia, there's no interest in that. They will buy and continue to buy Russian diamonds because they have no reason not to. It's available. The availability is there. And it's a little bit cheaper than non-Russian. So why would they stop?
Major Western jewelers, from Tiffany's to Cartier, have been keen to distance themselves from Russia's lucrative diamond trade. But a big hurdle with banning Russian diamonds from Western markets, which account for 70% of global diamond jewelry demand, is how to trace the origin of the stones. Small companies will struggle, says Tugendhoff.
We can do it. Because we've been working on traceability for the last 2 years. You should know that people who've been working with big brands traceability is not something that comes out of the sky as of now. All the new the players in the industry who have not yet started with traceability are going to lag behind, for sure.
He said that not only would a full Western ban on Russian gems be costly for the industry, it could also take another year to fully implement.
That's all the time we have on this edition of News9 Live. Thanks so much for watching.
News9 big coverage of 5 assembly polls. Mandate 2023.
This is the largest attack that the Hamas has ever done onto Israeli soil.